name is Anita Feltz. I am the manager of Silver Linings at Old Bridge, your activity center right here in Old Bridge. I am also the New Jersey representative for the National Institute of Senior Centers Collaborative Leadership. Today I'm going to do a presentation on seniors against scams and tips on how to avoid getting scammed. So the first thing I would like to point you guys out to is that we do have a participant guide. So if you would like to follow along to this presentation, you are welcome to visit our website to download the guide, or you could download the guide following this presentation where it will contain all the information that was presented today. What are our objectives today? So our first thing is, how much do you really know about scams? And that's something you need to ask yourself and take some notes on what you know and what you're going to be learning today. Why are you at risk for financial scams? And who are the usual suspects of scamming, and what types of scams are there out there that you should protect yourselves and your loved ones from? Finally, we're going to provide you with some resources on how to report scam and financial abuse. So, scams and you. So our target demographic today is adults over the age of 55. And why is that? Because unfortunately, you are the most at risk for getting scammed. 1 in 5 individuals in the U.S. age over the age of 60. 1 in 20 older adults indicate recent financial mistreatment, and that mistreatment can come in any form that we will discuss in this presentation. Only 1 in 44 elder financial abuse cases are ever reported to law enforcement. A lot of times, seniors do not report these scam issues because they are afraid that the police department or someone will think that it was their fault, that they deserve to get scammed, and not reporting it is just as bad as getting scammed. 9% of financial abuse victims must turn to Medicaid after their own funds are stolen. A lot of people end up losing their retirements, their 401ks, to getting scammed. So why are scammers targeting seniors? Well, number 1 is greed. Anyone can get scammed, but a lot of times scammers will go after seniors because they think that they have these big retirement funds, they have all these 401ks, pensions. So greed is definitely the number 1 factor as to what seniors are getting scammed. Also, fears and frailties of aging. So a lot of times scammers will go after seniors because they think that these individuals don't have the mental capacity to take care of their finances and that they are easily taken advantage of. Also, another reason why scammers target seniors is because a lot of times older adults will depend on others to take care of their financial means. So unfortunately, scammers can also include your own family members and friends who you think might be assisting you but are really taking advantage of you. Cognitive impairment, which I mentioned, is also another reason why older adults get scammed. If a person is in maybe the early stages of dementia, Alzheimer's, a lot of times scammers will prey on that as they will take advantage of the fact that the person may not remember or may be more willing to provide information that will put them at risk. And also, another reason that scammers go after seniors is isolation. So, seniors often live alone, and scammers find it easy to go after those individuals, especially those who live alone and are in isolation. So we're going to do just a quick case study as an example for you today. Mrs. T receives a phone call from an unidentified number. The unknown caller identifies himself as a good friend of Mrs. T's granddaughter, and who he says has been arrested for traveling out of state. The caller then tells Mrs. T that he immediately needs $10,000 to post bail for her granddaughter. The caller instructs Mrs. T to go to her bank and withdraw $10,000 in cash, place the money in a bank envelope, stuff it within the pages of a magazine, and go to the local grocery store where someone would meet her. What should she do? This is a good question to ask yourself. What would you do if this was you? So the first thing I would recommend is that Mrs. T should hang up the call and take notes about the call to provide to the local authorities. This is something that Mrs. T should absolutely report to the local authorities because this person may be doing this to other people and may have actually gotten other people to fall for this scam. Mrs. T should hang up the phone and call other family members to verify if her granddaughter is in trouble. So she should call her granddaughter. If she's not able to get in touch with her granddaughter, she should call some other family members and make sure that she is not in trouble, that everything is fine, and that will give her the insurance, and it will let her know that this phone call was most likely a scam. We also would recommend that Mrs. T no longer pick up unidentified calls. And I think a lot of you guys have received these calls that have unidentifiable numbers that you don't know who they're calling. And oftentimes the number will look similar to a number you know. And this is how scammers will try to get you. So who are the usual suspects for scamming? So the likely perpetrators are often strangers who prey on other people that we have mentioned that may be isolated, lonely, confused, or desperate for attention. A lot of times seniors who live in isolation will pick up a phone call even if they don't know who it's from, just because honestly they just want to talk to somebody. And this is a good way for scammers to go after older adults. Believe it or not, family members to whom the person wants to stay connected to can also be scammers. These individuals can take advantage of an older adult just as easy as a strangers can, sometimes even easier because they have direct access to that person's bank information, credit card information, and other financial items. Caregivers, and those caregivers could also include family or other, who use fear or guilt to take advantage of a senior. We have also seen this when aides will take advantage of the seniors they are supposed to be taking care of. They will take their checkbooks and write out checks to themselves. They will access bank accounts and credit card accounts and will take advantage of the senior that they are supposed to be helping and take care of. So types of scams. As you know, there are many types of scams, and new scams are actually created every day. The COVID-19 pandemic made us realize that as well. As soon as the pandemic happened, we saw an uptake in scams happening throughout the country in regards to COVID-19. First, it was how you can get a free COVID test. Now we're seeing these scams happening with vaccines. So it's important to educate yourself and make yourself aware of what is true and what is real and what is not. The best way to defend yourself is to be aware of these tactics that the scammers use, and we'll go over several tactics in this presentation. So, the top 10 scams targeting seniors include Social Security impersonation scams. I'm sure you all receive a call from Social Security office saying that you owe this, saying you're going to lose your Social Security benefits if you don't do X, Y, Z. I will let you know that the Social Security office will never call you. Any official business from the Social Security office will always come in the form of a letter. So anytime you get a call saying that they are an officer from the Social Security Administration, hang up the phone. Believe it or not, romance scams are also something big amongst older adults. People will pretend to be someone they are not on social media often, and they'll go after that lonely older adult who needs a little compassion and who may need some friendship, and they will take advantage of them in that way. We all are getting those telemarketing and robocalls regarding your car warranty expiring and all those things. A lot of times seniors who are receiving these calls don't even have cars that their car warranty would actually be expiring. But we have seen seniors who have fallen for it, even though they know that they don't have a car. They are afraid that they are going to get in some kind of trouble if they don't do what these robocalls are telling them to do. Another way that seniors are getting scammed is through investment schemes. That is a more sophisticated type of scam, and that way they will go after your retirement funds, they will go after your 401ks, your pensions, and they will convince you to invest in something that half the time is not real, and in a way to scam you out of your money. Tech support and internet fraud are also a big scam right now. We are especially seeing this now with the pandemic and a lot of programming going virtual. We are hearing about calls supposedly from Microsoft telling you that your software on your computer needs to be updated and you have to give somebody access to your computer. You will never get a call from Microsoft regarding those items. If you're unsure about something going on with your computer, always take it to a reputable service, and have them check out your computer. Do not do anything over the phone, especially when it's somebody calling you. Funeral and cemetery scams are something we don't see as often, but are happening, where people will be sold into, purchase your plot or plan out your funeral if you give us this kind of money. And a lot of times this happens, we are not made aware of because people just want to be prepared for that time in their life. And as being vulnerable, because it is a hard time to begin with, seniors will often fall for this scam. Medicare and Medicaid scams are also a big one. About a year and a half ago, the Medicare office sent out new cards to all Medicare recipients, and this was a huge time during scams. People were being sent false letters. People were getting calls that in order to get their Medicare cards, they had to provide all different types of information over the phone. That is not real. Anytime you get any kind of call regarding your Medicare and Medicaid, please look into it. Do not give out any information unless you know what the information is for. Also, if you have a question regarding your Medicare and Medicaid, you should always initiate the call. If you are getting a call regarding that, but you did not call them, most likely that's a scam. Home repair and contractor scams. Unfortunately, we see this happening more and more. Seniors who live alone and need to do some repairs around their home hire contractors who end up taking advantage of them. They may overcharge them on the labor or the material, or do a poor job and then say, well, I need to fix something else, so you need to give me more money. This unfortunately is something that we see as well. So you can avoid that by reaching out to the Better Business Bureau, by making sure that your contractor is a licensed contractor and that they are reputable in your community. These are not as popular anymore, but these were the original scams, the sweepstakes and Jamaican lottery scams, when you would get a call or an email saying that you have won the Jamaican lottery, and all you had to do was send $500 and you would receive $1 million. That will never happen. So make sure that if you get any types of those emails or calls, you do not answer them, and you should report them to the local authorities. And finally, the grandparent scam, which is the scam that we spoke about before regarding Mrs. T. Your grandchildren, you should know them, you know their names. The first question, if you get one of those calls, well, what's my granddaughter's name? Most likely that scanner will not know her name, and then immediately you will know this is a scam. But as we said before in the presentation, there are things that you can do if you want to avoid getting that grandparent scam. You can reach out to family members, hang up the phone immediately, and then reach out to your family members to see if your grandson or granddaughter is actually in trouble. You could have a password or a safe word with your grandchild. We have heard of older adults who have gotten calls from supposedly their grandchildren, not even from a friend, who say, hi, grandma, you should never say, oh, is this Mary? No, you should always let them say their name first. Don't offer up any information where that person can take that information and then use it against you. So here we're going to discuss some more tips on how to avoid scams, which I already provided a little bit as we went through the top 10 scams, but we're going to go into it a little bit further. So the tips for avoiding tech support and internet fraud. As I mentioned before, if you have an issue with your computer, make sure you take it to a place reputable, or initiate the call with Microsoft or Apple. They will never call you because they would not know that your computer has an issue. Never give out your password for your computer or any software or accounts that you have set up through your computer to a third party that is calling you. Again, if you initiate the call, that is a different story. If you have concerns about a slow-running computer or errors or antivirus updating, contact the tech support number that is directly on the software package. At that point, it is safe to provide them with the information that they will be asking you for. Sometimes, as I mentioned before, you can also take your computer to a local computer tech company in the area. And if you're not sure, you could always contact the Better Business Bureau for a few trusted tech support business near you. Tips to avoid funeral and cemetery scams. So never agree to anything over the phone unless you've had a chance to read it in writing. You always want to have that contract, and you always want to make sure that you're agreeing to something that both of you have said and not just something that the other person is saying to you. Never agree to pressure sales. Get everything in writing, take it home and review it first. Don't say yes on the spot. Sometimes it may be too good to be true, and half the time it is too good to be true. Once again, because you are dealing with a business, check out the Better Business Bureau. And if someone states they represent an organization that your loved one did business with, tell them to send it to you in writing for a review. So you don't want to hear, oh, well, so-and-so in your family has used us in the past, and, okay, well, let me know what they have. And you could always reach out to that family member to see if that was true. As I mentioned, Medicare scams are a big one. Medicare is very important to older adults and their daily lives, and this is a good way for scammers to go after them. Protect your Medicare number as if it was your credit card number, your social security number, and do not allow anyone else to use it. Be aware of salespeople who are trying to sell you something they claim for that will be paid by Medicare. A lot of times, older adults are being scammed by salespeople who are telling them, oh, get this special cane or this special walker or this wheelchair, and Medicare will cover it. Do not be afraid to ask for, okay, let me check with my Medicare first. Let me look into it first. Don't just take their word. Always review your Medicare statements to be sure that you are in fact receiving the services billed. Unfortunately, you do have doctors and other health organizations who will bill your Medicare for services that you did not receive. You may not think it's a problem, but it is a huge problem that is costing Medicare a lot of money, and that cost will unfortunately be sent back down to you. You can always report, and you should always report, suspicious activities to 1-800-MEDICARE. There's actually a Medicare Patrol called the Senior Medicare Patrol Program who will look into frauds and scams that you have been fallen victim to. We talked about the home repair and contractor scams a little bit before. As I mentioned, never do business with someone that just shows up at your door. We've heard of contractor going up to somebody's house, knocking on their door and saying, hey, your roof looks like it could use some help. Unless you've initiated the call and called the contractor to come out and look at your roof, say, okay, great, thank you for the advice, and close the door and move on. Do not just let them come up to your house and tell you that you need something. Most likely they're going to be looking to scam you. Never pay up front for a whole job. Wait until the work is complete. So I highly recommend that let's say you are getting your roof done and the cost is going to be $15,000, set up a payment plan. So you're going to pay 25% up front for the materials. Halfway through the job, maybe you'll pay another 50% of it, and then at the completion of the job, you will pay the 25%. You always want to make sure that you are satisfied with your product, and that is the best way to do it, by setting up a plan that you both agree to. If you'd like to pursue an offer from a contractor, get the name of the business, their telephone, physical location of the company, and tell them that you will call them back to let them know if you want to use their services. This will give you the time to check out the Better Business Bureau once again to see if they are reputable. And you always want to make sure that most contractors that you use have a license in place, which means that they'll have insurance. So if something were to happen, you are covered. As always, get a quote in writing, get your invoice in writing, so that you always have something as a backup and as proof. How can you avoid sweepstakes and lottery scams? So legitimate lotteries and sweepstakes take the taxes and other fees out of the winning before you receive it. So as I mentioned before, we are hearing about people getting emails or calls saying, hey, you want the lottery, pay us the taxes up front, so send me $500 and then you'll get your winnings. All legitimate sweepstakes and scams and lotteries will take the money out before you receive it. So if you're supposed to win $10,000, you will only receive maybe $9,000 because the tax and fees would have been taken out already. Again, you have to be in it to win it. So if you did not play, you most likely did not win. So if you're hearing that you want a lottery or a sweepstake, ask yourself, did I enter that lottery or sweepstake? If you did not, it is not real. So also keep in mind, especially with these Jamaican sweepstakes, that U.S. citizens cannot play and win foreign lotteries. It is illegal. So make sure you keep that in mind if you're getting one of these calls or emails. We're not going to spend too much time on the grandparent scams, as we've already discussed all the tips, but it is very important to keep in mind that this is something that happens all too often. As I mentioned before, some families will actually set up a password that only they know, and in times when you are unsure, you can ask your grandchild for the family password. That is a good way to make sure that whoever is calling you is who they are saying they are. So how can you protect yourself and your loved ones? So Identity theft. Identity theft is a huge problem here in the US. Without your consent, someone can use your personal information, social security card, credit card number, driver's license number to access your account, to open your account, to apply for loan and mortgages. And all of these things are a crime. Make sure you report them. Medical identity theft. Without your consent, someone using your personal and health information can get medical treatment, prescription drugs, and or surgery. That is also fraud. So make sure that you do not give out your medical identity information. So common ways that people steal your identity. So one is called shoulder surfing. Someone will be looking over your shoulder as you fill out a form or as you use your PIN at an ATM or listening to you give your credit card number over the phone. So make sure that if you're giving any information over the phone, that no one that you do not know or trust is around you while you're doing it. When you are at the ATM, protect your password by covering your hand over the keypad. And always make sure that when you're filling out forms, you are leaning in and no one is around you that can be potentially looking at your personal information. Believe it or not, there are people out there who go dumpster diving and they will go through garbage for copies of your checks and credit card or bank statements or pre-approved credit card mailings. I'm sure you've all gotten those credit card mailings saying that you are approved for an American Express card or a Visa card. While you don't want those, make sure you shred them. Make sure you tear them up nicely because that information can be used by someone else as you have the pre-approved number on there. And you have to remember, on that envelope is also your first and last name and your address, and you don't want any of that information to be out there attached to an application like that. One of the other ways that people are getting their identity stolen is through phishing scams. So emails that appear to be from a legitimate company or institution like the IRS asking you to update or verify your personal information. Again, they will not be sending you an email. If you're not sure, contact your bank. So if you're getting an email from TD Bank that's saying we need you to update your password or we need you to do something, make sure that whatever you're clicking on is actually taking you to the TD Bank website, for example, or to whatever bank that you are using. And if you're not sure, contact your local bank or institution and ask them, hey, are you guys updating programs, accounts? I got this weird email, and they can also assist you with that. How can you protect your identity? So invest and use a paper shredder. As I mentioned before, you really should be shredding any documents that has any kind of personal information on it. Always monitor your bank and credit card statements to make sure that no one is using your card or your bank account fraudulently. You can also stamp out identity theft with an ID card stamp, which will cover up all your information on personal papers. Do not fall for phishing scams. As I mentioned before, when in doubt, call the institution that emailed you to confirm that the information is required or if it is potentially a scam. Again, beware of telephone scams. Those are the easiest scams to fall for. Never give out your information over the phone to someone who initiates the contact with you. Be careful with your mail. Do not let incoming mail sit in your mailbox for too long. When sending out sensitive mail, consider dropping it off at a secure box or directly at the post office. This will enable you to protect yourself against identity theft. So what should you do if you become the victim of identity theft? Well, the first thing you should do is contact your banks and credit cards immediately. Freeze all your accounts, request new account numbers, request new cards. You should always also fill out a police report. A lot of times, actually, banks now are starting to ask for that, and it is a good way for people to encourage people to actually report these crimes because it is a crime. The police may not be able to do very much themselves, but you may need a police report in order to clear up the matter. File with the Federal Trade Commission by using its online complaint form or by calling their hotline as well. This will also help you, again, have proof. If your bank says, well, you have to prove to us that somebody stole your account and charge $1,000 to it or whatever, you want to have as much proof as you have, and by filing with the police and filing with the FTC, this will allow you to have that proof. Make sure you always put out a fraud alert to your credit card reporting agencies so that it does not go against your credit score. Again, I feel like I'm being redundant, but these are the 8 ways that you can protect yourself. Be aware that you're at risk from strangers, but also from people closest to you. Do not isolate yourself, stay involved, and stay educated. Always tell solicitors, I never buy from or give to anyone who calls or visits me unannounced. Send me something in writing. Shred all receipts with your credit card number on them. Even if you think, oh, well, it only has the last 6 digits or 4 digits, you should always shred those receipts. Sign up for the Do Not Call list and take yourself off of multiple mailing lists. Now, I have heard that the Do Not Call list doesn't necessarily work as well. Scammers have found a way around it, but it doesn't hurt. It will reduce the amount of calls that you get, so you should look into doing that. Use direct deposit for your benefits check. So if you receive Social Security benefits or a pension or anything like that, you should always apply for direct deposit if it's available. This will make sure that your checks are not stolen as they're being mailed to you and no one is cashing them on your behalf. Never give credit card, banking, Social Security, or Medicare information over the phone unless you're the one that initiated the call. And as always, be skeptical of all unsolicited offers. So how can you protect your loved ones? So this is signs to look for. So if you start to see and this is actually more so for the individuals that are helping older adults, taking care of them, caregivers, family members. So if you start to see unusual recent changes in a person's account, including weird withdrawals or new persons added to an account or sudden use of a senior's ATM or credit card, most likely there's scam going on. Person suddenly appears confused, unkept, and afraid. So we have seen this in cases where a caregiver is taking advantage of a senior, but doesn't, and is supposed to be taking care of them, but we find that the senior now has been left confused, unkept, afraid, because they've been threatened by that caregiver. Utility, rent, mortgage, medical, and other essential bills are unpaid despite having the adequate income. Again, this is also a way that a person is being taken advantage of, is their bills are not being paid for, that person is not taking care of them, not only physically but also financially. Caregiver will not allow others access to the senior. So this is another good way of isolating a senior, is for a caregiver to not allow that senior to have contact with family members or to have contact with their friends, and oftentimes that ends up with some kind of scam happening by the caregiver. Piled up sweepstakes, mailings, magazine subscription, or free gifts, which means they may be on a sucker list. So this may mean that if you're seeing a lot of these types of mails, that means that scammers out there know that you either have fallen for this in some sort of way, or you may potentially fall for it. So be careful if you start to see a lot of these types of mailings. So what are the next steps for victims of financial fraud? The number one thing I will say is don't be afraid or embarrassed to talk about it. Waiting could make it worse. Again, a lot of times people do not report this because they are afraid, they are embarrassed. If they tell their children, oh, I lost $500 because I thought so-and-so was in trouble and I was scammed, your children will not think less of you. You absolutely should not be embarrassed to report this. Once again, immediately call your bank or your credit card company, cancel any debit or credit cards immediately, reset your PINs if needed, and call the police, your local police department, and file a report. You can also contact legal services and adult protective services. You can find your local offices by calling 1-800-677-1116. Also, a good way to make sure that you are being protected is by getting to know your banker and build a relationship with the people around you who handle your finances. They can look out for any suspicious activity related to your accounts. I hope that you have found this presentation helpful. If you have any questions, never hesitate to reach out to us here at Silver Linings. And once again, please visit our website so that you can download the participant guide that will have this presentation available, but it will also have all of the resources that were mentioned today. Thank you so much and have a great day.